If you walked away from the church, your kingdom hall, or your congregation, but you still hear their voices in your head every time you try to make a decision, you aren't free yet. You change your address, but they still own your subconscious. Welcome to the Transform You Live show. I'm Marcus Hart. Today we are going deep into the trenches of high control religion recovery. We are talking about the lasting anxiety, the chronic self-doubt, and the deeply rooted shame, especially for our LGBTQ listeners, that lingers long after you stop attending services. If you grew up being told that you were never enough and that trusting your own intuition was a sin, this episode is your extraction plan.
Welcome to the Transform You Live show.
So we need to have a very real, very uncomfortable conversation about what actually happens in the pews of high demand groups. We aren't just talking about bad theology today. We are talking about weaponized behavioral psychology. Joining me today is a man who didn't just study this in a textbook. He lived it inside the wire. Rodney Allgood spent over 30 years inside a high control religion as a Jehovah's Witness. Today, he is a motivational speaker, a life coach, and he leads a global community of over 13,000 former JW members. He also coaches survivors transitioning out of LDS, Scientology, and strict Pentecostal backgrounds. So, Rodney, I want to welcome you to the show, brother. I want you to jump right into the deep end. You know, you spent about 3 decades inside Jehovah's Witnesses. So for the person listening, who never experienced this, take us behind the curtain. What is the psychological difference between a strict church and a system that actually tries to program your subconscious?
The difference is the amount of control they try to exert over your life. High control groups usually have very strong communities. That's the best part of it, is you have instant friends, instant community. Wherever you go, you know people, and you kind of live in this bubble. You judge the world based on what you see in that bubble. And there's just a lot of control as to your activities, what you do, how you present yourself, lots and lots of control. And the threat is always that you're going to lose this community if you step away, if you disagree, if you begin to think for yourself. You'll lose your community, you'll lose your connection to family, and that's always that threat. So that becomes more important, really, than the beliefs itself. Maintaining your community. Many times you're disconnected from your children, from your parents, from your siblings, if you decide to take another course. And a lot of these big decisions in life are made at quite a young age. When you get baptized into the faith, usually at 12, 13 years old, before you can ask any questions or are old enough to ask any questions. People tend to get married at a young age, and you make these big life decisions way too early before you even know who you are, what you even think for you, thinking for yourself. You make these decisions before you're able to think for yourself.
Yeah, Rodney, man, because of what you just described, it actually sounds less like a congregation and more like a hostage situation.
You don't see it like that when you're in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it when you're in it.
Yeah, so, I want to play devil's advocate for a second, so some people watching this are going to say, well, Marcus, every religion has rules. That doesn't make it a cult. But you talk about the us versus them programming. How does a high control religion specifically use fear and repetitive ways to hijack a person's survival instinct so they literally feel scared to leave, like you mentioned?
Well, the subconscious mind is programmed through repetition. And reality is simply what you've convinced yourself to be true. So high control religions tend to make everyone else the enemy. Only you have the truth. Only your leaders are privy to the truth, are privy to understanding the Bible, interpreting the Bible for its members. And what happens is you start to look at the whole rest of the world as what we call them as worldly. We call the rest of the world worldly. It wouldn't matter if you were an old lady, volunteering at the soup kitchen every week, or if you're a drug dealer. You're all worldly. You all are a threat. So it's a very much us versus them mentality. And, to create a cult, and you see this in politics a lot, so it's not just religion. You need an
Hmm.
enemy.
Yeah.
You need an enemy that you're against. You need to fear something. And then the religion and its promises is the cure to those threats. So it's fear, it's the carrot and the stick, right? It's fear and the
Yes.
hope that we have the cure and we have the answer to what we caused you to fear. And that makes people very, very compliant.
Basically, what I'm hearing is that they sold you the disease so they could lease you the cure,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. And we see that
Yeah.
play in a lot of areas, but with religion, when you can attach God to something, how much more powerful do you make that? Right? When this is God,
Right.
when your organization is the direct channel to God, and you start looking at the leaders of that organization as representatives of God, it becomes very, very powerful because it's your eternal salvation. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that God is soon going to destroy pretty much every non-member. He's going to destroy basically 8 billion people and preserve the earth for just Jehovah Witnesses, and he's going to create a paradise out of that earth, right? So, of course, you're going to fear anyone that can plant a seed that keeps you from paradise. The worldly people are dangerous. Your ideas are dangerous. Talking to you is dangerous. Ingesting any information that does not come from that one source is dangerous. So, hence, you don't grow. In that organization, you don't grow. A witness at 80 is the exact same person they were at 30 because you're getting all your information from one source. You question nothing, and you cannot grow without questions. You must ask questions
That's
to
for
grow,
sure.
right? So they
Yeah.
discourage its members from asking any questions. Just do as you're told.
So, I mean, if they can convince you that the outside world is pure evil, they become your only source of safety too. So how
Mhm.
did that manifest in your own life when you finally decided to walk out?
Well, I had woken up to it a long time before I actually left. I was married, I had 2 kids. I had a business and I employed 18 or 19 Jehovah Witnesses. So I held on for a long time just because I knew with leaving, my life would implode. So there's a lot of people who are in religions like that who don't really believe. They just don't know how to leave. It takes a lot of courage to leave the faith. So, for me, what happened is I was really into personal development. When I was 25 years old, I read a book by Tony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within. And we weren't even supposed to read stuff like that, but I went on a business trip and I read this book while I was on this trip, and it absolutely opened my mind up. And from then on, I could not stop reading books and taking in other information and really seeing, it just led me further and further away from it. But the fact that I was married into it, didn't know how to get out of it and keeping my life intact, it kept me there for a long time. And that's a lot of people. They might not believe it to their core, but sometimes the loss of leaving doesn't feel like it's worth the gain of being away from it,
Yeah.
right? It's you don't know what's out there. Being out in the real world is a mystery. Sometimes people will settle for what they know, even if they don't agree, than to go toward what they don't know.
So I want to pivot to a community. We going down the right path here. And this community, they take the heaviest gunfire from these organizations. And we're talking about the LGBTQ community. You have coached dozens of people. You seen the
Mm,
carnage firsthand when a young person is sitting in a pew and then the person holding the microphone is telling them that their authentic identity, their biology is an abomination. And what does that repetitive fear-based messaging actually do to their developing brain?
Oh man, it's really hard for people who feel like they're living a lie, right? Because they live in judgment of self. They feel like something is wrong with them. There's nowhere to express what's going on within them. No one in the organization understands, nor do they want to hear it. So I've coached a lot of these people, and it is literally hell for them. So many of them start living a double life. And that, again, if you're feeling like you still believe in the religion and you're living a double life and you feel like Jehovah's watching everything you do, it's just a spiral. It's just, there's no peace in that person's mind because something about them is just sinful. They blame themselves. They think it's them when it's not. I've known kids 4 years old, I know they're gay. I can tell, right? And they grow up they grow up with that conflict in their head their whole life. Like, I'm going to be destroyed at Armageddon for the thoughts I have, for the desires I have. Imagine growing up feeling like you are just doomed to eternal death for these feelings you can't remove. It's just who you are. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. And I have a son who identifies within that group. And what you spoke to, about, you can kind of notice it in them at an early age, although they may not know what it is. And from a psychological standpoint, what you just shared with us, it keeps the amygdala, the brain's fear center, activated 24/7. I want you to
24/7.
talk to us about the Pacific. Yeah, 20, yeah. So speak to us about the shame and chronic self doubt that you see in these individuals transitioning out of these groups.
Well, number one, you feel like a massive disappointment to everyone you love, right? Your family blames you. You split up the family. You made the choice to leave Jehovah. You did this. We're shunning you because of you. You're making us shun you. So it's always put on the person who leaves. And there's just a lot of shame, right? You got these people, you got this giant community. One thing about religions like that, witnesses and LDS and more, witnesses and LDS and religions like that, is they have a massive community. Like when I was a Jehovah Witness, there's not anywhere I could go that I'd been before where I didn't know people, right? You go to a Kingdom Hall and you got 100 new friends. And to feel like this massive community of people that look at you as a disappointment, look at you as a traitor. That's heavy. You have to, in your mind, disassociate that part of your life. That's what I do, and that's what I teach people to do. I said, look at it like high school. When you graduated, you stepped up into another level of life. You did not worry about high school things. So I just kind of have to compartmentalize that part of my life, make it neither good nor bad. It's just where I was when I was there. And then I've graduated to something greater. That's how I have to look at it. Because if I look at it from the viewpoint of disappointing all these people, it's hard to carry that. I have to look at
Yeah.
myself as this version of me was never a Jehovah Witness. So I can separate the
Mhm.
two. This version of who I am today never was that. So I don't carry all that with me. Just like high school. This version of me wasn't in high school. That's where I was when I was 17. So I separate the two so I don't carry the burden of feeling like a disappointment to all these people that I've known all my life. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I need. I heard you say that programming lingers long after the person leaves. I want to push on that a little bit. Why that is. If someone realizes it's a lie, if they realize the theology itself is toxic, why can't they just flip a switch and be happy? Why does a 30-year-old adult still feel a panic attack when they try to date authentically or set a boundary within their family?
Because that's not how your subconscious mind works. I'll give you an example. Take the part I said, witnesses believe that everyone who's not a witness is worldly. So the word worldly is almost like a racial slur, isn't it? It's pretty much a slur to everybody that's not a witness. So take a man that was born with a bigoted mother and father, who was told something about, say, black people his whole life, read all this propaganda, it was told that these are not good people. And then he goes to college and he finds out that everything mom and dad taught is wrong. My best friend's black. Oh my God, I don't agree with my parents at all. He sees how wrong they were. And then his sister starts dating a black guy. And then he feels some kind of way about it. And it disturbs him that he feels some kind of way about it. And he doesn't know why he feels that way. He knows it's not right. Why does this bother me? Because of his programming, subconsciously. So the subconscious is programmed through repetition. You can basically convince people to believe anything if they hear it enough. And once they accept that as a reality, they just go deeper in that. It just gets layered and layered and layered. And just because you disagree with the theology, so that's the first thing people disagree with when they leave a high control religion. They go, the theology is wrong. I don't believe this anymore. But the way you see the world is programmed by the time you're 8 years old. That part doesn't go away. That's a lot of programming that makes you see the world a particular way. So when people feel stuck in life, it's when their conscious mind, their conscious ideas, their conscious beliefs are not in alignment with their subconscious wiring. And when your conscious beliefs are not in alignment with your subconscious wiring, your subconscious will sabotage you. And you won't know why. So what you're asking about is the subconscious mind. And people aren't always aware of their subconscious beliefs because it's wired so deep and they're not conscious of it. Right? And you also have something in your brain called the reticular activating system. And it's a part of your brain that's filtering out unnecessary information. And it gets programmed again when you're young. So, say me having been a Jehovah Witness all those years, if I'm sitting in a doctor's office and me and you are talking, we're having a deep conversation like we're having now, and two ladies come and sit next to us and they're talking about, I don't know, their daughter's graduation. They're talking about certain recipes and they're just having some ladies talk. And someone comes and asks us, what were those two ladies talking about? We would say, we have no idea. I have no idea. I'm talking to Marcus here. And I didn't paying attention. I wasn't even aware that these two ladies were sitting there. But a half hour later, those women start saying Kingdom Hall, elders, field service. These are Jehovah Witness terms, governing body. No matter how deep our conversation, I heard that. Because my reticular activating system doesn't ever filter that out. I don't watch hockey. Right. So if somebody's talking about hockey, I'm not paying attention. But you say the Dallas Cowboys suck, no matter what we're talking about, I heard that, right? And that's how programming works, right? So for someone to really get beyond it, and one of the mistakes a lot of ex-cult members make is they obsess about the cult after they leave. So they're giving their mind nothing new to feed on. So the reticular activating system remains the same. It remains focused on the religion. So they stay stuck. You got to give your brain new wiring. You got to wire over. It's like when we were kids, when we had cassette tapes, right? When you couldn't afford a new tape, the Maxell tapes were expensive. Remember that, right?
I remember that.
We taped over the songs we didn't want to listen to no more. So you took your oldest tape and you put your new jams on it, right? And it's the same way. But guess what? The old records or the old songs are still there. We just wired over them. And that's what we need to do to our minds.
Yeah. And I just want to assure our audience out there that we're not calling Dallas Cowboy fans cult members. Yeah, man, they'll jump on me about it.
Hey, man, when you like the Cowboys, you love them or hate them. There's no middle.
Yeah, there's no middle, so you got to pick your side. Yeah, so I mean, this is spot on, man. You giving us a real good illustration of exactly what's happening, and this is what we mean when we talk about the Matrix too. You know, about all the programming that's happening around us 24/7. You know, it's fair to say. And this is why I brought you on the show. You know, you don't just talk about the problem; you help people unlearn it. You're a mindset and breakthrough coach. You know, if someone is listening to this right now, and maybe they left the LDS church 6 months ago, or they just walked away from a strict Pentecostal upbringing, and they sit in the rubble of a life that's just deconstructed. You know, it feels like death to them. They lost friends, family, entire worldview. Give us the street strategy. You know, what are the first 3 tactical steps to us?
Well, I
You know, for
teach
us.
people, I teach people there's 5 stages. Stage number 1 is a stage of doubt. You usually go through that while you're still in it. You start seeing the cracks in it. Well, that right there, that doesn't make any sense. They had to adjust that point of view. You start seeing things that aren't right, don't add up. You start taking in information from other sources. So stage 1 is doubt. Stage 2 is a stage of fear, because now these cracks are getting so deep. You start thinking about, man, if I step away from this, I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose all my friends. I'm going to lose my belief system. You see, when a world belief system gets challenged or shattered, it's devastating. There have been times in history where they found out something was different. The world wasn't flat. That was devastating to the people who thought the world was a certain way. So when you walk away from your belief system, it's like, now what? What is God? This isn't true. What is true? So it's a real fearful place to be. And for me, that was hard, because I was like, man, I got this business. I got all these people I employ. I got a wife. I got 2 kids. If I walk away, my whole world is going to fall on top of me. Then you go to stage 3. When you make the move and you walk away, you go to stage 3. And stage 3 is a stage of anger and resentment. You resent the things that you missed in life. There's a lot of things that Jehovah Witnesses, when I was growing up, didn't allow you to do. You weren't supposed to go to college if you were a Jehovah Witness. You couldn't marry somebody that wasn't in the faith. Now, I can go on and on of these different things that you couldn't do. You couldn't play sports when you were in high school. You might have been a great athlete. I was really fast, man. They wanted me on every team, and I couldn't play. Always saying no. No Christmas, no birthdays. You look back in your life and you go, man, I missed out on all those things, and that window of life is closed, and I can't go back.
Yeah.
You get mad because you start really researching the religion, and you're finding out things that you never knew. Man, I would have died. I would have took a bullet for this religion. I had no idea that they used to teach this. I had no idea that this is the true history of this religion. You start learning things. You start learning about court cases that are going on right now, and payoffs and all kinds of stuff. And it makes you mad. That's stage 3. Problem is, most ex-members stay in stage 3 forever. And life moves on. Here's the thing about life. 10 years later, you can't be blaming anything for the state of your life. Life's not fair for anyone. Life is 10% what you do about it. It's 90% what you do about it, and 10% what happened to you. Life is 90% what happened to you, but 90% what you do about it, and 10% what happened to you. And people don't see that. They want to keep using the same excuse, and you can't, because that might have been something I've been through, but my next door neighbor has been through something too that's different. Life on planet Earth is not fair. It's challenging by design. And to use an excuse for the rest of your life for why you aren't who you're supposed to be is weak. And I teach people that. You can't stay in stage 3. At some point, you got to wrap it up. It is what it is, and you got to find happiness from that point. If someone got hit by a drunk driver and will be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, it's a horrible, unfortunate situation, but you got to find happiness from that wheelchair. You got no choice.
Yeah.
So stage 4, when you move from stage 3 to stage 4 is a stage of discovery. where you go on your journey. It's a stage of exploration where you question things. Wipe the chalkboard clean and discover what you think outside of your childhood influences, outside of what your parents taught you, outside of your program beliefs. What do I think? What resonates with me? Regardless of anybody else, what resonates with me? And that's when you get over the anger. I just put the Jehovah Witnesses in a scrap pile of false religion. Just because I was that, I don't have particular anger at them. I see them at their carts. I just wave to them. They're just people doing what they believe. Because this version of
Yeah.
me never was a Jehovah Witness.
Mm.
When you find what resonates with you and you start taking that road and you start living life according to what resonates with you and what your personal truth is, you go to stage 5, and stage 5 is a stage of self-knowing. I know who I am. And I know I can always change my mind. And I know I don't have to commit to something and be inflexible about it. Life's a journey, and I'm here to learn. And at stage 5, you start to teach. You're always a student and a teacher at the same time. So I'm never going to let history dictate my present happiness. And that's where everybody should get to.
That's I love that. I want to say that first of all, I really love that. You put some interesting points in there. You kind of spoke about stage 3, and I wonder, the guilt, the guilt is the hook that drags them back. Is there a way to coach them away from that guilt and to help them separate the voice of God from the voice of toxic programming?
Yeah, it's you have to be committed to growth. You have to. One thing that I try to convince people of is the greatest betrayal is the betrayal of self. Not the betrayal of mom and dad and other people. It's the betrayal of self. Because when you are on your deathbed, when you're old and on your deathbed, knowing you've got a very short time to be on this planet, you will never, ever look back and say, did I make everyone happy with my life decisions? Was everybody happy with the decisions I made? You will not ask yourself that question. You will regret the things you did not have the courage to do. You will not regret whether you made everybody happy or not. And I spent a lot of time thinking about what life will be like in my latter years. Your latter years, the later years of your life, is the residual of prior decisions. And let me tell you what really woke me up. I haven't told this story much. But I was about 40 years old, and my father-in-law at the time had just turned 60. And he got very, very, very depressed. He had just woken up himself. He didn't really believe in the religion anymore, and he'd been an elder twice in the faith. But he got really, really, really depressed because at 60, he realized that he didn't live the life he wanted to live. He was a great dad. He did all the things he was supposed to do, but he wanted to be a radio DJ whole life. He had a friend that was a DJ. He used to sneak into the station at midnight, sometimes get on the air for a little bit. He had a deep voice, real witty, just born DJ. Never did it. Father-in-law was somebody that he should have been riding a Harley. He's supposed to have had a big beard riding a Harley. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Never did it. And he was 60, realizing that the window was closing or had closed on a lot of his dreams, and he was pissed off. And I looked at him, and this is when I was really struggling myself, knowing that this isn't the life I'm supposed to be living. And I looked at him and I said, I am not going to be you. And this is somebody I admire greatly, but I'm not. If I don't make the decision at at 40, then I'll be 60, feeling like you're feeling. I'm 58 today. I would hate to be starting the journey now. See, it was too late for him. I realized that at 40, I was going to implode my life, but at 40, I could rebuild it again. For 18 years, I've been rebuilding my life. But at 60, he just realized that the window had closed. The biggest betrayal in life is the betrayal of yourself. And the problem is when most people realize that, it's too late to change anything. I wasn't going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, there's a lot of casualties when you do make that choice. It does hurt people. I've got 2 children I don't have the best relationship with because they're both witnesses still. My wish and my belief is that they'll wake up in their own due time. But that does not change the fact that the biggest betrayal is the betrayal of self, and to live, even to make, they're grown now, but to make my children happy. That's what my father-in-law did. Still, in the end, the betrayal of self is the worst betrayal that you could ever do to anyone. Don't do that. And if you're watching this and you're young, make big decisions as early as you can in life. If you're going to have a train wreck the train early because less people will be on the train.
Got that right. Well, Rodney, and the knowledge and wisdom you gave us today, if we dropped it into a pool, we'll make a pool of gold, man. It's solid gold. I really appreciate it so much. The work you're doing with your 13,000 strong community is nothing short of revolutionary. You pulling people out of the fire every single day, and you probably pull some people out of the fire today. So tell the squad where they can find you and how they can join your community and how they can get coaching from you if they are trying to transition out of a high control faith.
Rodney Allgood, just like it sounds, ALLGOOD. That's my Facebook. My Facebook group is called Empowered Minds, Empowered XJWs. It's in parentheses, but Empowered Minds, you'll find it there. And if you reach out to me on Facebook, just send me a private message if you'd like some advice, coaching, or just if you got a question and you feel stuck. And I like to leave with a poem that I wrote. I'm a poet, and this was the first poem that I felt like it just downloaded through me. I wrote it in 5 or 10 minutes when I was dealing with all this stuff. And this poem is called Free. It goes, raised in beliefs that were never mine, a detachment from myself stood over time. A lie I lived for so very long, never understanding my truth about what's right and wrong. Like a chameleon, I would change my colors at will, so the people I love would love me back still. But is it true love if it's taken away because something called truth is not seen the same way? You see, we all have the power to use our own minds and seek understanding that we all wish to find. This journey is mine. It belongs to no other, no brother, no sister, no father or mother. See, I was created unique and like no one else, but my talents and gifts were then put on the shelf. Now it's time to break free from these chains and shatter the bondage. This is out of my brain. Now I'm finally free. I can soar to the sky, for I was created in the image of the one who's most high.
Hey man, that was a special treat at the end. You just spoiled us with that one. And Rodney, I appreciate that's brilliant. I really love that. Hey, I wish I can get a copy of that. So yeah, if you get a copy of that, that'd be great.
We'll do.
So we got all of Rodney's links in the show notes and on the Transform You Media Network news resource page. It's going to be a landing page with all of that information on how you can connect with him.
Also, too, RodneyAllgood.com is my website. That's my speaking website, but RodneyAllgood.com, you can find me there, too.
Okay, thank you. RodneyAllgood.com is the additional link that you will see in there as well. So I'm Marcus Hart with Rodney Allgood, the Transform You Live show. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love, you guys. I'm out.
Before we park this episode and close it, I need to speak directly to the survivor watching this right now. You have spent years having your narrative controlled by an organization that did not have your best interests at heart. They tried to silence you. They told you that if you left, your life would fall apart and you would have no voice. It's time to prove them wrong, people. Your scars from spiritual abuse, those aren't disqualifiers. Those are your credentials. The world doesn't need more sanitized, perfect religious mask. It needs your gritty, authentic truth. At the Transform You Media Network, we are building an army of truth tellers and cycle breakers. If you have survived a high control religion and you are ready to turn your trauma into your greatest platform, you belong with us. Stop letting the system speak for you. Go to the link in the description right now and claim your spot with Transform You Media Network Contributor Package or our Authority Launchpad. Get published, get seen, reclaim your narrative, protect your peace, guard your mind, and remember, your intuition is not a sin. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love.